It's Wednesday, July 22nd, and time for your Barbados Today Morning News Update. Pilots employed by Liat say the plan to save the cash-strapped regional airline from liquidation does not address their dire financial situation. The concern from the National Union of Public Workers, which represents the Barbadian commercial flyers, as well as a local pilot, came on the heels of Monday's agreement by the major Liat shareholder governments, Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dominica, and Antigua and Barbuda. Among the plans proposed by St. John's to reorganize the airline, 3 planes owned by Liat and charged to the Caribbean Development Bank will be sold. But Acting General Secretary of the NUPW, Delcia Burke, tells Barbados Today the suffering of the pilots appear to be excluded from the plan.
I think that the government should say, each of them should say their work, the persons from their jurisdiction, and I think 50% is way too much to be cutting anybody's salary. I also have had information that some of our pilots in Barbados, the ones who are renting, have been threatened with eviction. So, and all of this, nobody is paying the pilots any money, as far as I can see.
President of the Leeward Islands Airline Pilots Association, Patterson Thompson, tells Barbados Today the rescue plan, which the Antiguan Prime Minister says should see the planes flying again in about 90 days, lacks clarity and depth at the moment.
The details are sketchy. The three governments have understanding amongst themselves, and I don't know enough to say that I have anything really to say about it, because we now have to put some flesh on the bone and see how it affects us.
Minister of Tourism and International Transport Kerry Simmons says the 12-month Barbados Welcome Stamp has already received tremendous interest. He made the disclosure during debate on the Remote Employment Bill 2020 in Parliament yesterday. The initiative aims at attracting non-residents to the island where they can work remotely for up to 12 months. While not giving figures, Simmons said even though the Welcome Stamp had not been officially launched, government had already received substantial expressions of interest.
It is a proposition that makes good sense, and therefore I was not at all surprised when we started to see, a week and a half or so ago, this spontaneous outburst of interest by people not only in continental United States but around the world in taking up this offer of a 12-month stamp, welcome stamp, and coming to Barbados. Now, sir, obviously, an expression of interest does not in and of itself automatically translate into a person who is here physically located for 12 months. But you got to begin with the expression of interest, because up until this point, the reason why we are here today is to make it possible for people to actually submit formal applications and for our immigration department to approve applications. So we cannot simply say, oh, we have 5,000 people who are on our doorstep. But we know that there's a substantial expression of interest.
The minister said the welcome stamp was targeting a younger demographic considering the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic.
That cadre of people who are perhaps between the ages of 23, 24 and going up to 39 are the first primary target, because we want also to serve another end result. Let us be faithful to the reality of Barbados and the profile of visitor that we're getting to this country and have been getting for many years. Barbados' tourists, sir, Barbados enjoys the touristic reputation as being one of the few places on earth that have such a high rate of repeat visitors. It is true to say, sir, that we are perhaps only exceeded in that regard by places like Disney World. The other target market is those people between 40 and let us say 59 years of age. By then, many of them will have a family. Many of them will have reached a stage where their income levels have escalated. And their concern, quite frankly, Mr. Speaker, the concern that you would have is a concern of, well, the well-being of my family.
Meantime, opposition leader Bishop Joseph Averly has expressed concern that the Barbados Welcome Stamp could be used to allow persons opportunities to become citizens of Barbados. In his contribution to yesterday's debate, he also questioned what he described as the haste in which the Remote Employment Bill was being fast-tracked and whether there was an alternative reason behind the initiative.
I need to ask the Minister of Home Affairs, I believe he will speak in this debate, as to whether or not part of what gives rise to the haste in this matter today has anything to do with the fact that there are already persons here living and working under these conditions in the absence of the legislative basis that would allow for that. Is there anybody, or are there any persons here already known to the government, known to the Honorable Minister, living and working under these conditions in the absence of the legislation having been framed and passed in this House? Are we trying, therefore, after the fact, to catch up with the incidents of what's going on around us with respect to this?
The opposition leader, however, admitted that there were some positive spin-offs from the initiative, but advised the government to implement it carefully. He called for more stringent requirements to be applied and also warned about the possibility of persons involved in white-collar crime and other types of illegal activity, including terrorism and money laundering, taking advantage of the offer.
We live in a day of transnational organized crime. That has been admitted by both sides in this honorable chamber in recent debates. We live in a region where some of our jurisdictions are known already to have been exposed to terrorist presence. Mr. Speaker, as innocent as we are, the world about us is not altogether all that innocent. And there are elements looking for opportunity. Am I saying that the government should not have this welcome mat program, this welcome stamp program? I'm not saying the government should not have this welcome stamp program. I am saying if you can do it, you do it with full thought, you do it carefully, and you are careful not to be overly hasty.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from our regional neighbors now. As of Thursday, July 23rd, Grand Bahama will go on a 2-week lockdown following a spike in COVID-19 cases. We get more about the announcement made by Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis in this report from ZNS News.
The surge in COVID-19 cases on that island has led health officials to designate it as a COVID-19 hotspot. And it was just over 2 months ago when Grand Bahama didn't even record any new COVID-19 cases.
As of Monday, the 20th of July, health officials have confirmed a total of 59 cases of COVID-19 on Grand Bahama. 51 of those cases are being recorded since the borders fully reopened on July 1st of this year. Outside of New Providence, Grand Bahama now has the largest number of recorded cases in the Bahamas. The number of confirmed cases is expected to increase if much of the population continues to to fail to practice recommendations for physical distancing, wearing protective face coverings, and frequent and thorough hand washing.
As Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis advised Grand Bahama residents to prepare for the lockdown during his national statement Tuesday. He cushioned any of the residents' fears, confirming that food supplies are well in stock, with some 14,000 food vouchers anticipated to be distributed, and some essential services will remain open.
And finally, on the international scene, President Donald Trump has encouraged Americans to wear a mask if they cannot maintain social distancing in an effort to curb the spread of the coronavirus. In his first briefing focused on the coronavirus pandemic in months, the president told reporters at the White House that the virus will probably get worse before it gets better. We get more in this report from NBC Nightly News.
Under pressure, President Trump holding his first briefing on the coronavirus since April, touting progress fighting COVID-19.
The vaccines are coming, and they're coming a lot sooner than anyone thought possible, by years.
Tonight, intensifying his defense of his administration's handling of the crisis. But unlike past briefings in which President Trump was flanked by members of the coronavirus task force, tonight the president took the podium alone, bringing in a shift in tone.
Some areas of our country are doing very well, others are doing less well. It will probably, unfortunately, get worse before it gets better. Something I don't like saying about things, but that's the way it is.
Including doing something he has rarely done, touting masks.
We're instead asking Americans to use masks, socially distance, and employ vigorous hygiene. Wash your hands every chance you get while sheltering high-risk populations. We are imploring young Americans to avoid packed bars and other crowded indoor gatherings, be safe and be smart.
The president also asked why he has sent mixed messages on masks, tweeting out a picture of himself wearing one for the first time yesterday, and then hours later captured at a fundraiser at his hotel without one.
I have no problem with the masks. I view it this way. Anything that potentially can help, and that certainly can potentially help, is a good thing. I have no problem. I carry it. I wear it. You saw me wearing it a number of times, and I'll continue.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.